Buy a classic car, they said. It'll be fun, they said.
This is RCR's website. This is where you click to submit your car for review. This is where you buy merch. This is where you sign up for bonus content and...
We won the war! Time to drink bourbon-based drinks at 11 a.m. Ignore civil rights. Eat roast beef every night. And buy cars with ships on them. 1950 Plymouth Special Deluxe Sedan. Oh, don't use a 12-volt jump pack on a 6-volt system. You'll be sorry. Oh, go bummer post some more. This is why you're shadow banned.
Beautiful. Is that awesome? Yeah.
70 years old this is. Doors closing accurately. Mopar never could make. Restored with boomer dollars this was. This Plymouth is accommodating, gentle, and mature in its slowness. Like getting a handy in a funeral home, I've never had more fun at 40. But tell your dad he's squeezing too hard at the base. A Plymouth Special Deluxe Sedan will pull 60 miles an hour up a hill with a running start, but it prefers not to. This likes to go 40 miles an hour. Alex, the owner, had this car up to 80 miles an hour, and I don't know how the flathead side valve engine felt about that. It has no power brakes, so you gotta stand on them. No power steering, so you gotta use this ship's wheel for leverage. Brake lights are completely ineffective, can't see them in the daytime. It's like they're lit with Christmas lights. And the turn signals are even worse. The bumper reflects more light than these turn signals emit. The trunk lid design doesn't make sense. You open it, and the lid is still in the way. The overhang, it just covers everything up. And the hood, the hood is even worse. The hood's job is to produce dad hitting his head on the hood while working on the engine TV trope. Yep, that's an oil bath air cleaner. Fill it with used motor oil, and air passes over top of the oil bath in there, and the intake air is cleaned somehow. Now, the Mopar 3-speed column shift is way better than the punk rock version on the Valiant we drove. This lever slid in. And occasionally first would chatter back, but Alex said to just jam it into first, and that was normal. You shift from first to second at 10 miles an hour, and second to third at 25 miles an hour, and from there, just run it out. Now, the suspension on this Plymouth is the best part. It absorbed washboarding, winter cracks, drain grates, cement slabs, and steel plates better than most modern cars. I didn't feel the impacts travel up into the steering wheel. My guess is the long travel and soft dampening were made to deal with the U.S. road infrastructure that still had dirt roads outside of cities in 1950. I mean, the Eisenhower interstate system legislation didn't get going until 1956. But now we're in 2021, and this car, it's not ideal for traversing unless you commit to driving this car daily and just throw yourself fully into the look.
No, and that's the whole thing. Like, I mean, you can look at it, and I mean, as if you don't have like an eagle.
Oh, there's the ooh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. You can just breathe on the throttle and let it ride.
It does not like shifting fast. It did that a lot before, like that break up and hesitation before I got it tuned, and it was just like a matter of getting the idle, the mixture set. Well, that's the same thing. Idle mixture. A couple other like little things, but now there's no issues. So
to drive a 50s Plymouth, you have to be aroused by living in a 1950s style cosplay to live with a 6-volt classic. Plymouth Super Deluxe. The car for a man who wishes he could live in Toontown. He dresses up like Eddie Valiant and wears tan trench coats in 90-degree summer sun. He carries bodega cigarettes in a steel case. He dramatically pulling them out and fake smoking them in full view of the bus stop. He pushes air forward through the cigarette and says stuff like, "It's another mystery," to no one. Driving this, it's a fun carousel to drive around the block a few times. But it's like riding the Knobel's Grand Carousel on the inside track and not reaching for the brass ring. It gets old damn fast. You can't floor it because the engine suffers excessive load and it pings and pre-ignites in protest if you do that. And no one, when you get into early 50s stuff, no commoner really knows what this is. It's just an old car. It looks adorable. Oh, that's a real classic. That's when they really knew how to make cars. Blah, 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 blah. But you can't take it anywhere. You got to check your oil level constantly. The engine can't get too cold. It can't get too hot. It's adorable, but so needy. Plymouth Special Deluxe. The automotive equivalent of owning a Labradoodle. All you can do with it is circle the block and wait to be complimented. Plymouth Special Deluxe. As familiar as a scoop of ice cream set adrift on a tide of root beer. Back to the engine. This is a 3.6-liter straight six with a 3-speed manual with no synchros and a first gear that scrapes like cold butter on dry toast. Above 60 miles an hour, it gets light in the front. It's squirrely, but nevertheless it wants to move. Like getting a can of WD-40 removed in the ER, it's more fun than it has any right being. Across 71 years and 55,000 miles, this has had only one engine rebuild. The 217 cubic inch engine makes about 97 horsepower at 3,600 RPM and 175 pound-feet of torque at 1,200 RPM. It looks middle class, but it was actually the most expensive Plymouth of 1950, with an MSRP of $2,372, which comes out to about roughly $26,179 in 2021, or the price of a new Volkswagen Passat today. Except this has far more character than a new Passat, because it hasn't had it all hammered out by automation. This was the perfect post-war car to combat the industry's escalating labor and material prices. In 1950 alone, the Special Deluxe moved some 234,000 units. It was created as an upscale answer to the Plymouth 6 line of cars, which debuted the 6-cylinder engine to the company fleet, but lacked a substantial enough wheelbase to make those cars as comfortable or as fun as this. Yes, a car that runs hot, has trouble starting, and would get you killed in a slasher flick. Plymouth Special Deluxe, the official car of "Forget about me, save yourselves!" But once it gets going, you'll understand why these are valued, and why Alex values his. Alex's grandfather got this car initially because his parents had one just like it, brand new. But one day, Alex's grandfather, and along with his buddies when they were young, took that car on a joyride after church. They flipped it. His grandfather broke his own jaw and, of course, completely totaled the car. Medics said he and his friends were lucky to get out of the car alive. So Alex's grandfather vowed to one day replace his parents' car. And that happened in 1989. He saw an ad in the newspaper, bought this Special Deluxe, and kept it in incredible condition for the next few decades, until illness prevented him from driving it anymore. Once Grandpa passed, his wife couldn't find a seller, so Alex, the grandson, stepped up. And now he owns it. And it allowed he and his father some bonding time fixing up this car so it can get on the road again. In the purest sense of the term, it's a family heirloom. It imbues good feelings, as the best classic cars tend to do. But is the appeal of classic cars changing? Well, certainly they're not worth what they used to be 20 years ago. Nothing ever stays the same. To swim toward the comfort that sustains us in our memory is to swim against the currents that pummel us back toward the shifting and unstable shore. There's a folk hero quality to classic cars, the inherent feeling of rebellion that can't be recreated. We imagine that rebellion in the form of a pricey, cheap, skinny fat, driven by the switchblade, comb-having, bomber jacket-wearing, baby-faced with 3 days stubble and a pregnant girlfriend who thinks he died in Korea image. He still goes to class, but only to chew gum, put his feet up on the desk, and get teachers' names wrong. and the law's been trying to get him all his life. But a person like that is now in his regretting years, and every conversation ends with a threat to take you out of the will. In a lot of cases, classic car ownership is born from one of a handful of different motivations. It's a family heirloom that you either inherited or decided to buy off a family member. Or you like classic cars and simply wanted to own one. Or you like having a project to work on, which is the hobby approach. Or you see dollar signs and flipping them, which is more the mercenary approach. Because now, more than ever, companies live to monetize nostalgia, to make history and the grand stories of our youth assume the position for sweet daddy capitalism. Because sex is cool and all, but nothing is quite like watching cynicism get trampled on by the serotonin stampede of classic car acceleration. Nostalgia is a resource, as renewable as Chicago flatulence. Look, whatever gets your foot in a classic car door isn't necessarily wrong, even if you're just the guy at the car show with his Impala, sitting in a cloth lawn chair, waiting to get his ring kissed. There is still something special about having these cars out there in the automotive ecosystem, even if you stop showing them at car cruises because they never win anything. The only way a car like this can win at a car show is if the judge is as old as it is. But it's still good to know that there's a non-zero chance of seeing these out and about in the summer months. The problem occurs when you get a classic car, especially a 50s classic car, with no intention of keeping up with maintenance. Because when you get a classic car, you're signing up for a bunch of problems that can only be solved two ways. One, use modern technology to get you out of it, with engine swaps, EFI tech, and the entire Summit Racing catalog. Or your other option is to find the old-timers who are still working and know how to work on these 6-volt systems. You're going to need a lot of money to spend. You got to be about that life. Trust me, I know. On one hand, the cost of keeping a car relatively pure might not be feasible in the first place. But in that case, it's sort of like going out to eat when you can't afford to tip. Why are you buying this in the first place? Well, you're buying it because sometimes you just want a slice of that dream. To feel the undiluted joy of impairment. Because there's no way to keep a classic car going forever. Eventually, every piece of metal will be replaced, and the only thing left would be a small square where the serial number is. Time will collect its tax, but for a time, you will have had the experience. And that can last longer than the classic car itself.
Okay, I messed up again. I fixed the initial timeline. I don't know how. Maybe I was scratching my ass in front of the wrong window. You know, butterfly effect type things. But I ended up in 1950, and I had to get Betty up to 69 miles per hour. Nice. And I ended up cutting off these guys in a Plymouth Valiant, and I really hope they're okay. But right now, I'm in Germany in the 1970s, and I don't know what I'm going to be able to change here, but I have an idea for a sedan. If I don't make it back, God, just please take care of the stove thing. I would feel so much better if the stove thing was taken care of. And I know there's no way for you to let me know it's been taken care of, but I don't know. I trust you, Brian. I trust you. So, I know you won't let me down, and I'm not going to let you down. So, time gate activate. Yeah, I'm running with it now.